I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on GBM, we're tackling one of the greatest ancient history mysteries of all times. We're talking with author James Kizer about his groundbreaking theory that is put forth in a wonderful book. It is called Keeping Up with the Egyptians, Building Pyramids. In the book, the author confronts the impracticality of ramps and debunks theories about aliens or flying machines, offering a new, sensible plan based on simple physics and mechanical means. This insightful book reveals a method so efficient it could set a stone every 2 to 3 minutes using only 0.1% of the energy of traditional ramp methods, providing the definitive answer to how the pyramids were truly built. We're
Mm.
delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him on TV today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. James, great to see you here today. Thank you so much for joining me.
And nice to see you too, Logan.
Great to have you on the show. This book is fantastic. It's a great theory. It answers a lot of questions that a lot of people have had questions about for millennia. Let me ask you this, though. This thought process began when you were just in fifth grade. Tell us about this.
Honestly, I was just introduced to mechanical means at that age. Your
Mhm.
your your basic teacher said, "Hey, this is mechanical understandings of what we have today." It was the inclined plane all the way up to like a screw and then the basics. And then somehow they showed us the pyramids, the
Mhm.
Egyptian pyramids, and they showed us about four different theories on how the ramps would have been set up to build them. In my
Mhm.
little mind, I'm 11 years old.
Yeah.
I looked at this and I'm putting heights together. I'm like, okay, two, three, 400 feet. Um, Something just doesn't add up here. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but maybe I'm, just a little mind, I don't know nothing from anything. And and I just said to myself logically, this just doesn't make sense. I,
Mhm.
I mean, something's missing here. And I just kind of put it away and went on with life, honestly.
Mhm.
But at that time, I said, maybe someday I'll answer this question.
Yeah.
Just a little kid just thinking,
Yeah.
that's all it was. And and I kind of put it away and buried it and never really gave it a lot of thought for a long time.
Mhm.
As I got older, I ended up getting into the apprenticeship into the Boilermakers, and it was
Mhm.
based on testing that was kind of mechanical understanding and a few other things. And so at the end of the day, I realized that actually, let's back up for a second.
Mhm.
In my middle 20s, I was given, my mother had all this paperwork, all this stuff. She's like, here, why don't you take this stuff? And it had one of my high school tests, like a state test that they do,
Mhm.
fill in the dots. And
Yeah, with the number two pencil.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, like
Mhm.
I scored in the 99th percentile in
Wow.
spatial relations and
Mhm.
97th percentile in mechanical understanding. I
Wow.
didn't even realize that I had done that well in those areas. But whatever, you're
Yeah.
now nice moving on. And then one day I got to thinking about that moment in fifth grade. And I just
Mhm.
said, holy cow, like I've been moving heavy objects, working with people, men, grown men,
Mhm.
for like 15 years now. And I kind of know what the limits of a human being is. I know what what can be done without a crane and without, you can move stuff. And I just I said, oh my gosh, I might have the like like the basics to answer this question, you
Mhm.
know? That's all it really was. It was, and so I just started pondering it, and I just thought about it, and it took years. I'm going to be honest with you. I
Mhm.
worked on it for years and years and years. I kept trying to build the pyramids internally, and it just couldn't be done. Like
Mhm.
I couldn't do it. And then one day, I adjusted my thinking, and I threw a new idea in it, and all of a sudden, the whole thing just opened up for me.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where it came from. But I've been researching now. I'm looking at photographs. I'm anything I could pick up about the pyramids. I tried to dig into it and see what they were thinking and see what was there, what evidence is sitting right in front of this and on this picture
Hmm.
that I can grab and use. And so that's kind of where all this came together.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing that it began when you're just 11 years old. And then you realized going along that you had an aptitude towards, spatial relations and mechanical engineering and all of that. Let me ask you this. How big are the pyramids? I mean, I've never seen them in person. I've only seen photographs. They look quite large. Are they a couple of 100 feet tall? Tell us a little bit about
Well,
the
I know that
dimensions.
they hit the pinnacle with the Great Pyramid, and there's some cool details about this. My understanding is, I believe they're almost like 600 feet on around the
Mhm.
base,
Wow.
460 feet tall. That's what they feel like was the point, where it hit the
Mhm.
top. Um, the cool thing that I learned about the Great Pyramid along the way as I was working on this project was I made this crazy little uh, model.
Lock up. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. As long
When,
as you don't wear that on your head, you're okay.
yeah, right. I
Remember, I think it was the 80s, people used to use pyramid power and they'd actually wear stuff like that on their head. But I digress. Tell us about your mock-up.
the Whip It video, right?
Yeah, exactly.
um, I cut these pieces out according to their dimensions of what they are,
Yep.
and I was gonna I made this aquarium because I wanted to do a test. All right, because I don't want to just walk up and say, yeah, this is what I think, and how about let's test things, let's see what really works. I had an engineer tell me it can't be done that way, the
Mm,
blah 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 blah. But then he introduced me to a new theory. It's called friction within water. Okay,
mm.
and I'm like, how do I work with this what they understand? But anyway, so I built this mini aquarium, I guess, to test this all these theories about like how does sand pack down, how does everything work. Well, I cut these pieces out and I laid them on the table, and one of them got spun,
Mm.
and I realized that the Great Pyramid hit almost absolute perfection in so many ways that nobody even told me this. That if you spin those triangles, they're within about 1 degree of all being perfect. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
not only four sides, but it's a perfect triangle. It's a three-angled triangle that is almost perfect.
Wow.
And like, wow, that is really cool. They really hit that absolute perfection 4,500 years ago. Holy, and so sizing things up, these are huge structures. I mean, like they said when they were built, they nobody built anything taller for thousands
Yeah.
of years, right? I mean, I think the Eiffel Tower, there's a few things, but it took a long time to get taller than the pyramids.
Wow. How old are the pyramids?
Well, those are those things that are left up to other experts.
Mm.
I try to go along with the general consensus on most things, but they're claiming that your pinnacle of pyramid building happened about 4,500 years ago.
Amazing. Amazing. 2,000 years before the birth of Christ, people were building these huge, huge monuments in the desert using only slave power, really, right?
Well, I think that, and then might be where people are going to probably part ways a little bit.
Okay.
It was hard. It was hard work,
Hmm.
but there probably was some slave labor involved along the way at some point. But they really actually believed that it was organized labor, that it
Hmm.
was that these people were paid and they were skilled workers. These weren't just some fools showing up and forced to do the job. They
Hmm.
actually were motivated by a paycheck,
Hmm.
and this is just theory. We're never going to know
Yeah.
absolute. We'll never know that. There's just too much missing. Um, but they believe that, and I kind of believe that too, because I always heard numbers of like 100,000 workers on the Great Pyramid. And I'm like, with what I'm saying, you're talking about maybe at the peak, at the bottom, you might have had 2,500 workers.
Hmm.
And I'm kind of a guy that knows how to spread out manpower
Right,
and
right.
get things done.
Right,
Eh,
100,000 people might have just been too many people to actually get things done, right?
Thank you. Like, what do you do? How do you feed 100,000 people?
Yeah, in the
How do you
desert.
feed 2,500 people?
Yeah, yeah,
Where do you get rid of their waste?
right.
I'm just saying that
No,
this
there's a practicality. If you've got a football game and 50,000 people are showing up, like you said, you have to have X number of porta potties, you've got to have X number of bottles of water and so forth. I mean, because there are human needs. You need water and you need output as well. So, yeah,
and energy.
yeah,
These people their muscles have to work. I mean, they
yeah,
have to work day after day after day. And where do you put them all to go to sleep at night, even?
yeah.
And so, yeah.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. The more you dig into it, the more questions you have. What are the approximate size of the stones that were used to create the pyramids? About how much do you estimate they weighed? And what do you think their dimensions were, more or less?
Um, to get down into those numbers, I know that they averaged about 3.2 tons, I believe, something.
Wow.
If I'm not mistaken, it was about that. You know, um, the thing that I think the thing that is kind of more dramatic when you look at like the Great Pyramid was the fact that the Grand Gallery slabs, which they estimate to be about 20 tons apiece, made it 240 feet high inside the
Hmm.
pyramid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, did we drag these up ramps? Did we?
Right.
That doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
even if you had 100,000 people trying to push them up a ramp, I don't see that
Hands
happening.
on them.
Right.
Where are you going to get ropes and hands and what? You're wearing sandals and you think you're going to push your sweaty feet against sandals trying
Yeah.
to pull something up a ramp?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Right. So without giving away too much,
Sure.
how did they do it? Can you give
Um,
us a little bit of how you think they might have done it? Or if you'd want to save it for the game, save it for the book, I understand.
there's more connection here than just me and my book.
Hmm.
This is bigger than that, and I mean that in a sense of my book is just a piece of the puzzle.
Hmm.
My book just answers a few questions,
Yeah.
honestly. You have to really, if you're going to even write the book that I wrote, you got to go all the way back to the first big pyramids.
Mm.
And that's Dozier's pyramid right now, the step pyramid. And we're getting Google feeds like regularly right now about
Mm.
that pyramid. And that pyramid was the starting point.
Mm.
And what they're finding in the basement of this pyramid was that water had a lot to do with this whole
Mm.
situation. And I always said it has got to be something to do with water. So I ask you, Logan, what happens to a stone when you put it in water?
Right. Well, I was going to say the same thing. My mom used to give me rocks as bath toys, hoping she could get rid of me because they don't float. But rocks don't float, although some do, right? Depending on what type of stone you're using, but not 6,000 pound stones. They don't float, as far as I know.
No, this
Yeah.
is not, but there's a piece of this. Okay. First of all, obviously, you put it in water, it gets wet and it sinks, right?
Right.
Those first two logical things. But
Yeah.
there's one other thing that happens that is undeniable to all people that understand physics.
Well, I
All,
guess it's the displacement of water. I mean, like you displace
all
water.
mass has buoyancy. If you put a piece of steel in water, it gets lighter.
Mm.
Buoyancy. Okay, so a cubic foot of stone basically weighs about 170 pounds.
Hmm.
Just putting it in water, just submerging it in water, takes the weight down to about 108 pounds.
Hmm. Which is
Now,
much more, which an average man could actually handle.
actually, the point of it is that you're trying to make the mass as light as you can.
Mm.
Because okay, so let's upsize this. Let's go to an obelisk that's 180 tons.
Mm.
Now you put it in, you just submerge it under the water. That's all you've
Right.
done. It's now 108 tons instead of 170 tons.
Now, do you have to erect some kind of giant tank in which to work to get this buoyancy? Or are you making some kind of ramp that's submerged in water that you push? I mean, I'm just trying to go through
Okay,
some of
you're
the
right. No, good
scenarios.
question.
Yeah.
Around every big, large pyramid structure is a wall.
Hmm.
It's a solid wall. Yeah, you can look at every single one of them. They've got a perimeter wall. That was a moat.
Hmm.
It was nothing more than something. And people say it's in you, like even you referred to. We're in the desert.
Yeah.
5,000, 4,000 years ago, it was probably a whole lot more lush than it is now.
Hmm.
Okay. And every year, and they know this because they have the proof, the river, the Nile River flooded the whole region. So they had
Hmm.
massive amounts of water. They had more water than they could probably handle sometimes. And they filled up areas and they learned how to get the work done while they had this water. So
Hmm.
all you really have to do now is just get it off the ground. You've got a stone, it's under the water, and all you have to do is just get it floating a little bit. You don't have to,
Hmm.
you got to get it just enough to get to the surface.
Hmm.
And it becomes a whole lot easier to move the stone because it's floating now and it's lighter and you're working with it. But
Wow.
that's how they brought the obelisks in. They didn't bring them in by dragging them across the sand. They
Right.
they submerged them just enough to lighten them up, and they just floated them right down the channel to the location that they wanted them to be at.
Wow.
I,
That's a,
that I
yeah.
thought that I mean, let's make it easy. Let's not kill ourselves here. How are you gonna? How else do you move a 180-ton object?
Right. Right.
And the casing stone from a lot of these pyramids came from over 100 miles away.
Hmm.
Did you
Amazing.
did you drag it across the desert or did you float it down the Nile?
Right.
If you floated it 100 miles, can't you float it another quarter mile to the spot where it's going to be?
Hmm.
That's kind
Amazing. Amazing. Well, that's a
of
good hint as to what happened. Does part of you wish that it was really aliens that had come down, some kind of superior life force that were much smarter, much stronger than us, that were so strong one of their single men could pick up one of the stones and put it into place? That would be kind of cool, right?
when you look at biblical things and you look at other stories of ancient history, there's always these stories about giants. There's always
Hmm.
these, and then you look at Pumapunka in South America, the stone structures that they cut out, carved out. I mean, what were they,
Right.
and what was their purpose? And do is it possible that somebody came from somewhere else, or I mean, I'm not here to eliminate those
Right.
theories. I'm not.
Anything is possible. I mean, it's arrogant to think we're the only intelligent species in the
That
cosmos, right?
my hand goes up to that one. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
I mean, I think your theory is much more likely than some giant man that was capable of lifting 6,000 pounds, put these into place. But one never knows, does one? It is fast. How many pyramids were actually built?
Well, I mean, that depends on, first of all, which air region of the Earth we're talking about.
Mhm.
I know that there were more pyramids built in South America, but if I'm not mistaken, than there were in Egypt.
Wow.
Um, you know, I think that we where I'm at with my book and what I'm trying to say, I think I'm in the area of about no more than 8 pyramids, 8 to 10 pyramids. Those are the ones that really have everybody's mind boggled, that really capture their imagination. It's the first one, Dozier's pyramid. Sneferu built, they believe he was attributed to 3 different pyramids. First, it was kind of a step pyramid. The second one was the bent pyramid. And the bent pyramid, the only reason that it became bent was because it failed. Something
Hmm.
happened catastrophically and caused them to change the angle of that building. But then he's like, that's not a perfect pyramid. I want perfection. So
Yeah.
the third try, they got it right. But what they learned on that third try, they used to help build the Great Pyramid. That'd be Khufu's pyramid. Um, you know, so here's your evolution over maybe a period of 50, 60 years, 50 years, 40 years, that where they went from a few ideas that started to work to how they transformed into premier pyramid building.
Yeah.
Um, I like it like this, Logan. If you were just a baker and you made donuts,
Hmm.
and you started out when you were 25 years old and making good donuts, by the time you're 45 years old or 50 years old, are you not going to be a whole lot better at making donuts?
I would hope.
I you know what I'm saying, though. The
Yeah.
more experience and the more real world uh, time on certain things, you're just going to learn more and you're going to get better,
Yeah.
and skill levels will get better.
What about the precise placement of stones and the leveling of such large stones? Does using water account for that as well, or?
I think water was the absolute major key. If you look at Egyptian hieroglyphs, the number one glyph that there is the one for water,
Hmm.
right? What is the hieroglyph for water? Well, I do put it in my book, and it's a simple one. I might have put it in here upside down, but it's this right here.
Gotcha. Like waves. Oh, it looked like pyramids also.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's just waste. And I figured out that that was water. I a lot of the hieroglyphs, I just took them as I seen them. How would I look at them? But there was one incident, and I write about it a little bit in my book, where one day, and I'm going through books and I'm looking at pictures and I'm absorbing everything I can, right?
Hmm.
And I was looking at a tomb and they had hieroglyphs on the wall. And it was like a gray blue kind of a color. The whole background was like a blue gray color. And
Hmm.
they had these certain hieroglyphs in there. And in the middle of these hieroglyphs was painted white. Like they went out of their way to paint these white on the inside. And I'm like, why did they go so far out of their way to paint something white? I mean,
Right.
everything else is gray. Everything else is gray or blue or whatever. And I thought, what if that's air? What if
Hmm.
all it represents is air? And I'm like, and the rest might be water or whatever. I'm
Hmm.
like, maybe this is a clue. Somebody's trying to say something, you know.
Right.
We lost a lot of information when the Library of Alexandria got burned down and it got destroyed.
Hmm.
I think that had that have survived, that we wouldn't even have this debate today. That
Hmm.
there would be so much information that we could use to tangibly answer these questions, but it was destroyed. Somebody,
Hmm.
I don't know the whole story of it, but I just know that they had a great area of knowledge, and people came in and just destroyed this whole thing, burned it down, or whatever they
Yeah.
did. And here we all are, thousands of years later or whatever, trying to figure it all out.
Exactly, exactly. Have you had the opportunity to talk with members of academia in the geology departments, antiquities departments, whatever it is? Not that they have a stranglehold on knowledge. Lord knows, I think a lot of the academics are lacking knowledge. But I was wondering if you've had any kind of debates or conversations with people like that.
When it comes to like I have second cousin here who went to engineering school, and as soon as
Mhm.
I tried to bring my what I'm saying, he just like, oh, there's just no way. There's just no way that. And but then he's the one that actually told me about friction in water, that water can
Right,
be held back by friction. And if you just put a pile of sand on the floor and put water on top of it and put enough water, eventually that water just pools and it just sits there on top of that sand. Hmm,
right.
that's a clue. You know,
Yeah.
he's forgetting about that, and I guess that I don't want to get held back by things. I'm not trying to imagine things. I'm
Right.
trying to work with things that are logical And I mean, if it was that hard to build a pyramid, do you think that Sneferu would have been able to build three of them in his reign? I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
three. It would have never. And after that, who would have went after building the Great Pyramid and the other and Khafre's pyramid, which is the one that sits next to it? Who would have went after that? After dragging stone up a ramp for 20 years, it wouldn't have made
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Either it was easy to do somehow, or it would have not happened. Not
Yeah.
to that level.
Yeah. It's
Fair enough.
fascinating. Are you thinking about turning your attentions now to other engineering mysteries such as Stonehenge or anything like that?
Well, I like that there's a theory already about Stonehenge that I already like and I respect it. Because those stones came in from quite a ways away themselves. There's like
Mhm.
two or three different types of stone. Some of them came from much further away than other stones. I do research. I love ancient technology.
Mhm.
I love see just putting my mind against things just to see maybe what I'm thinking and or just taking into account what other people are thinking. I respect what other people think. I don't have like you just said. I don't claim to be somebody special.
Mm.
I'm just taking logical thinking and applying it, and that's all
Right.
I'm doing now. Stonehenge, I really, they did a lot of stuff. I think that they're once they got them there, I mean, I think that it was just levers that they used to raise, shimming and cribbing, and until they got them where they wanted them. I think that what was the other one we were talking about?
Well, we talked about Stonehenge. I don't think we talked about another one. Maybe we're thinking about another one, but
Very,
Stonehenge
very
certainly doesn't have the engineering precision that the pyramids had, right?
well. I would say that. I mean, even but they still did something that was astronomically
Yeah.
great. No,
Yeah.
they really did. I think that they actually used ball bearings and hollowed out logs. I
Hmm.
really like that. That seems to be a theory that's possible that they found these stones that are really round, and
Yeah.
and if they just ran them down a flute and ran another flute on top, you could get this stuff to move actually relatively easy. If the smoother the better, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yes, there's just these amazing technologies all over. And when you break them down to like, okay, well, this one was 10,000 years ago. This one
Mhm.
was 3,000 years ago. But they all, there's where I was thinking was Solomon's temple, the temple on the mount.
Mhm.
They got these slabs there. And I have thought about adding a chapter or two to my book, just revising it again.
Mhm.
It doesn't require a lot of explanation. But how did they get those 2 to 3,000 tons slabs into position?
Yeah.
We're talking 2 to 3,000 tons.
It's
Now,
amazing.
I look at it like this: the the Jews, they left Egypt, right, according to the Bible, right? They
Mhm.
all the great story. Well, they went there and they were building Solomon's temple, and
Mhm.
this is just kind of my loose theory: is bravado.
Right.
Men always want to go bigger, right? We just,
Go
hey,
big or go home.
you know what? That's right. You were moving 100 tonners. We're going to show you how to move something 10 times tonner because we learned what you were doing while we were there.
Hmm.
We figured we had to help you and assist you, and we figured this out. Now we're going to make it even bigger and better,
Wow.
and we're going to move something bigger. And but it really does make sense because it,
Yeah.
it fits. It fits that time frame and stuff.
Exactly. And we all stand on each other's shoulders. We borrow from this person, borrow from that culture, and so
That
forth. Well, you've done great work on this book. The name of the book is Keeping Up with the Egyptians, Building Pyramids. It is a truly groundbreaking work by James Kizer that uses simple physics to solve one of history's greatest ancient enigmas with a theory so efficient it revolutionizes our understanding of Egyptian ingenuity. James, thanks so much for joining us here today.
all right. Thank you, and thank you for having me.
I appreciate your insight, the research you've done on this, and your great book. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford for the Global Book Network. So long for now.